Hello. What I'm going to do today is demonstrate how to get a set a quest stage by having the player listen to a radio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two quests, one to handle the radio and one to be the actual quest whose stages are set. And as soon as the game launches, the radio will play and the quest will come up to prompt the player listen to such and such a radio. Then when we've listened to it, another stage will be set. So if you were to do it with this method and the player were to start a new game, it would start as soon as the game started, so before the war, which would be weird. So if you wanted to prohibit that happening and say base the start on the player level, then you should check out my tutorial for that. But I'm not going to do that here just to avoid going over the same old ground again and again and again. So I'm going to start by setting up my radio, and I'm going to do all sort of the setup stuff related to my radio first. So to begin with, I'm just going to create a message. So go to miscellaneous message, and this message is going to be used for the name of the radio, so this will be what displays when the player looks at it in the Pip-Boy. So I'm just going to call it tutorial radio name. I'm just going to call my radio tutorial radio, and I'm going to stick this in all of the different boxes. Radio and tutorial radio. And so that's that done. So we will be using that later when our radio is set up. Now I'm going to create an activator. I'm actually going to use a default activator, and you'll see I've already loaded up the world space to play because we're going to be placing this in the world now. So we're looking for radio transmitters, and you can see there radio transmitter and radio transmitter marker. Now I'm just going to use radio transmitter like this, and I'm just going to put it up in the sky, but it doesn't particularly matter where it is. And again, it doesn't really matter at all what cell we're putting this in, because my radio is going to broadcast over the entire of the Commonwealth, so it doesn't really matter that this is going to be the centre where the radio is coming from. So we double click inside it, and one of these is called radio data, which you can see mine's defaulted to, but yours might not do that. And we're going to want to give it a frequency up here. Now the high end frequencies will be picked up by the Pip-Boy, lower end frequencies won't be. But we need to pick a frequency which isn't used by the base game or any of its DLCs. Because if we pick one where the frequency is already used, those two radios will play on top of each other when the player listens to it, unless the one from the base game is already disabled for some reason. And we don't want that. So what I've done is I went into the creation kit and I looked at every single radio frequency in the game and wrote them down in a notepad. Now I won't read them all out here, but I'll write down all the numbers in the description which you can't use. So I'm going to give it a frequency which has not been used by the base game, and my impression is that anywhere between 80 and 200 will be picked up by the Pip-Boy. I've not seen anything less than 80 be picked up by the Pip-Boy, and I've not seen anything higher than 200 used. So I'm going to go for 105.5. I don't know what the limits to decimal pointing it are, but I've only ever seen whole zeros or 0.5. I've never seen anything in between that. But 105.5 isn't used. And we're just going to hit OK, but we're just going to quickly jump back in, because now ignore distance checks is no longer grayed out, and we can check that, because this is now going to broadcast across the entire Commonwealth. So now we've got our message set up, we've got our transmitter set up. We need to actually set someone up to speak over the radio. So I'm going to create an NPC for that. I mean, you can, if you have an NPC who's going to exist in world, who you want to be speaking over the radio, you can do that, but I'm just going to create sort of a dummy NPC who doesn't really do anything. He's just going to be used so that we can essentially use his voice type, and we can just completely isolate this from anything used in the base game, which I like to do that. So I'm just going to create a new voice type for him. So I'm just going to give it tutorial radio voice, and just create an actor who's just going to look dead generic. Tutorial radio speaker. I'm not going to edit any of this really. Radio. We'll check him unique. I don't think we really need to do it because we're not going to be using the unique actor alias or anything, but we're going to give him a voice type. Tutorial radio voice. Okay. And okay. So we will be using all that when we create our quests. So now we've got all the basics set up to create quests. I'm going to create my whole radio quest, but not join together any of the pieces. Then I'm going to create my whole quest and not join together any of the pieces. Then I'm going to start joining the pieces together. So I'm going to just create tutorial radio 4045, and we don't need to bother giving it a name, but we can if you want. Start game enabled and run once. Yes, going to want to do that. Save that. And I called it tutorial radio. Here it is. And so now I'm just going to create a stage, right click new, stage 10, right click new in the log, and I'm going to hit run on start. So as soon as this starts, this stage will run, and we are going to be using this a little bit later on, but for now we're going to travel over to the aliases, because we're going to need to create a alias pointing to our radio transmitter here. So we're going to right click new reference alias, and we need to give that a name, which can be anything. It doesn't even have to be, as long as it's unique within that quest. And now there are a few different boxes that we can check here. I'm going to check, we have to click user stored text, because then that will mean that this alias displays as the message we created earlier, which we're going to select in a minute. And we're going to hit allow disabled, because we're going to want to be able to disable the radio when we're finished. I'm also going to click allow dead. Now I'm not sure if that's necessary, but some radios in the base game do it and some don't. I think our best bet is, if your NPC who's going to be speaking is going to exist in a world and it's possible for him to die, we should check allow dead. If not, we can probably get away with just user stored text and allow disable. It'll depend what you want to do with your radio. But so now we're going to select our name, tutorial radio name, yep, there we go. And user stored text has gone grayed out, so that's mandatory once we have a display name in. And we're going to actually want to select a specific reference now, so we're going to select a forced reference, select in render window, and we're going to double click this, and it's gone over to radio transmitter. And we're going to hit OK. And we're going to select no to that, because we don't want to, that will start adding this to the Abernathy farm location data, and we don't want to get into messing around with that. So it's just going to be forced reference to that. Okay, that's done. So now we're going to want to create our radio scene, and this is what the radio is going to say. So we're going to right click new, I'm just going to call it tutorial radio scene, and just click on it, and we're going to select begin on quest start. So as soon as this quest starts, this scene will begin to play, and we're going to want to set up our scene now. So we're going to go new actor and select radio, and right click add phase at end. We've got phase 1. Now we can create as many phases as we want and make this go on as long as we want, but I'm just going to maybe do 2 phases, and I'm going to new action radio, and we're going to put what we want the radio to say. Right click new and double click in here, and I'm going to say you're listening to the radio, and do that. And so now we're going to want to select a speaker NPC, and this is the guy we made earlier, tutorial radio speaker. Okay, hit OK. And if we go back in here and go back into response, we can see it's blocked so that only tutorial radio voice says it, which is the voice type of our speaker which we created. So we're totally isolating this. It doesn't go anywhere near any base game stuff, just in case we mess anything up. And we can make this response as long as we want, so we could right click new here, but I'm not going to bother doing that. I'm just going to do right click new action, create another one, right click new, double click in it, just like we did before. The next stage is about to be set, and we're going to want to select our speaker again. Tutorial radio speaker, okay, and we can see that tutorial radio speaker has appeared with a colon in front of it here. And so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to block this from actually playing unless the player is listening to the radio. So though it will be running sort of in the background, it won't be playing unless we're listening to it. So we're going to want to double click on phase 1 and go into these conditions. So we're going to want to create conditions which will effectively block it from playing when the player is not listening to that particular radio. And so we're going to want to do get player radio frequency has to equal 105.5, okay, and that was the frequency that we set earlier when we were messing around on our radio data. And we want is player radio on has to equal 1. So I'm going to copy all conditions, hit OK, and go into phase 2, and I'm just going to paste those exact same conditions in. So now none of this will be playing unless a player is listening to the radio, and if we don't do this, the instant the game starts, the stage will be set, and we don't want that to happen. So we're now going to go and create a new stage 20. And again, I'm going to leave this blank because we will be coming back to it later. And we're going to go back to our scene and double click on the action which you want to set for stage. And just set a standard stage like you would in any sort of quest like that. Okay, so I'm just quickly jumping back in because there is one thing I forgot to do. You need to add an additional phase after the end, and I've done right click, new action, start scene. Then this dialog box will come up where you right click new and just select the very first scene of your radio and select the name of your radio scene. It'll automatically put you onto phase 1. The reason you have to do this is if you don't do this scene will play once and stop, and then whenever you listen to the radio it won't come back on. And we don't need to bother conditioning this because this doesn't do anything. Well, it doesn't affect the quest or anything. So basically this will run through, skip phase 1 if we're not listening to radio. If we're not listening to radio, skip phase 2. Phase 3 will play regardless of whether or not we're listening to the radio, and jump us back to phase 1, at which point phase 2, phase 3, back to phase 3, phase 2, phase 3, and so on and so forth. If you don't do that, you're just going to get silence when you listen to the radio because it's going to play through once then never play again. So that was a pretty important thing that I missed out. So I'm either going to go straight into the game and show you this, or the tutorial will carry on as normal depending on where I decide to insert this. So again, if I hadn't put these conditions in, stage 20 would instantly be set, and we don't want that because those stages are now going to interface with the quest which we're going to create now. So we're going to right click new, and this is the quest which will actually show up when the player starts the game. So we're just going to call it tutorial. I'll call it tutorial radio quest priority 45, and now we're going to want to give this a name because this is going to actually show up in the Pip-Boy tutorial quest, and we're going to select category of side quests, and I'm going to hit OK. And has it showed up? Yes, it has indeed showed up. And we're going to want to create a couple of stages now. Right click new 10, right click new, and I'm just going to put in a little prompt here for us. Listen to the radio. So this is going to be what this is just for us. This won't show up in game, and we're going to want to put set objective displayed 10. Hit compile, and nothing should happen if we've done it right. Yeah, there we go. And we're going to want to create a little objective for ourselves. So right click new 10. We're going to put listen to tutorial radio, and we don't need to create a target. And we're going to create a 20th stage now. So I'm just going to have this end my quest. Like, you might want to have it do something else, but I'm just going to have it complete the quest like this. And I'm going to create a property here pointing to our quest. Which was tutorial radio. And so that's pointing to the quest which houses the radio. And I'm going to set an additional stage here. What am I doing? So my mind completely blanked on how to set a stage then. So this is the name of a property we created which pointed to the tutorial radio quest. And we're doing .setStage 30, and we're going to set up a 30th stage, and that 30th stage is going to end the radio quest. Like that, which we will get onto in a second. And we're going to want to just select some completion XP for this. XP, let's go miss quest low level smaller, so a tiny amount of XP. Okay. Save. Now we're going to just travel back to tutorial radio. And we can see these are the stages we created earlier, and we're going to also create a 30th stage. So what I'm going to want to do here is this 30th stage is going to just end the radio to stop it playing. So I'm going to create a property, and I'm going to add a property, and we're going to want to create a reference alias. And this reference alias is going to point to the alias which was called radio, which we created before. So we could just call it radio if we wanted, but I'm going to call it alias underscore radio, just to prompt us that this is referring to the alias which is called radio. And it will fill in automatically because it knows that tutorial radio houses the alias radio. And I'm just going to go, we called it alias underscore radio, and then I'm going to do .getRef, open brackets, close brackets, and this getRef thing tells us that it's pointing to the object reference which is represented by the radio alias, because we can't run enable and disable on aliases, we have to run it on object references. Disable, open brackets, close brackets, and then I'm just going to go stop. So this quest will just completely stop once we reach stage 30, so that means once we've listened to radio. So now, stage 10. This is the stage which runs on start. We're now going to start interfacing this with the tutorial radio quest. So go to properties, and we're going to add a new property in which this is going to be a type quest, and it's going to need to point to tutorial radio quest. So last time I created a property pointing to a quest, I just gave it the exact same name, but this time I'm going to stick a P in front of it, and this will be used to prompt us that this is a property, which I probably should have done that before, just to make it absolutely clear what's happening. Tutorial radio quest, and the creation kit recognises that P as prefixing a property, so it does automatically fill it in. So P tutorial radio quest represents the tutorial quest. And so I'm just going to put in here P tutorial, call it tutorial radio quest dot set stage open brackets 10 close brackets compile. And I'm just going to copy this to make sure I don't mistype it. And then stage 20 paste, we're going to be wanting to set to stage 20 of that quest. Compile. And now that should be done. I get the feel that felt a little bit confusing. I'm hoping it's not confusing because we're having to jump back and forward between doing a lot of different things. I couldn't just do it all in a straight line because of the way they have to interface with each other. So I'll go through what's going to happen. So because I've selected run on start for this quest, and I've selected this quest as start game enabled, the instant the game loads up, this stage is going to run. And as soon as this quest starts, this scene is going to start to run because we selected begin on quest start. And as long as the player isn't listening to the radio, stage 20 won't be set. So stage 10 will immediately be set, which is setting stage 10 of tutorial radio quest. And stage 10 of tutorial radio quest is displaying the objective number 10. And the objective number 10 says listen to tutorial radio. And so when we listen to tutorial radio, i.e. our frequency is tuned to 105.5, which is the frequency of tutorial radio, this will say you're listening to the radio. The next stage is about to be set, at which point stage 20 of this quest will be set. And once stage 20 of this stage is set, it's setting stage 20 of that stage. And once stage 20 of this is set, it's completing this quest and setting stage 30 of this quest, and this stage disables the radio and just blocks this quest from doing any further action. It stops it completely. And I've done it in this way because you might want to keep the radio running a little bit longer, because it might be like investigate the distress signal, and then once you investigate the distress signal, then it stops, but this quest carries on. So that's why I've made them interface with each other in the way that I have done, setting one another stages like that, rather than having the whole thing housed within the radio quest, which I could have done. But I'm just making it very, very short for tutorial purposes. I do still have plans to do a slightly long form quest tutorial, but it will take a long time and sort of a lot of planning, so I do it in the most effective way possible. And I'm going to do that once I've done sort of all the other bits and bobs. But at the moment, this radio will be totally silent, and that means that it'll take a long time to play in the background. So I'm just going to record. I'm going to record using the basic, already existing record functionality, I think. So I'm just going to hit record. So it probably won't sound great in the game, but here we go. You're listening to the radio. And just hit save. Okay. Okay. And if we travel back inside, we should see that now it has a WAV, but no lip file, because we don't need a lip file because it's the radio. And then I'm going to create another one here. The next stage is about to be set. And I've just used I would recommend manually creating the necessary folders using, I use Audacity to record. It would probably be just as good. You'd have to create, it's looking for a particular path. You can see the name of the path it's searching for here. If you create these folders, data/sound/voice/tutorial radio quest.asp/tutorial radio voice, then you name your file this name here, and stick it in that file path, then that's how you create a voice. But I'm just going to use the built-in recording functionality, which I've never used before, but I imagine it doesn't sound very good, so we'll find out when I go into the game and demonstrate this working. Okay, so tutorial quest has immediately started up, and I'm going to have to wait for all this other stuff to go by before I can show it working properly, but we will see that tutorial quest is here. Listen to tutorial radio, and we have got tutorial radio signal, so I'll listen to that when all this stuff's gone away. and let's do it. The next stage is about to be set. And it's gone, and we completed the quest. So we did jump in sort of halfway through the radio, which was unfortunate, but essentially, I mean, you saw it working, the functionality does work. So hopefully that was clear and not too confusing, because with me having to jump back and forth between quests, like that seemed like it might have been a little bit confusing, but hopefully it was sort of, I went through everything nice and clearly. One additional note, if you are interested in trying for a part in my Hilda Hughes and Institute story mod, I am still looking for people to play roles in that. Though the character of Danny Rowds has had the most auditions for it so far, I will add that, so if you are planning on auditioning for him, the competition will be a little bit steeper. But thank you for watching, hope that was useful and clear, and goodbye.